In this video, we're going to talk about the process for sending out a mass email campaign to a bulk list of contacts. Now, this is the process that you're going to follow whenever you have a new service that you want to announce, maybe a new special or promotion for the month, or if you want to start putting together regular updates like a Monday morning motivator or just a weekly summary of what's been going on with your company or the real estate market. So the way that we're going to put this together is first we're going to come over to the campaigns menu option over here. And campaigns is the CRM's term for mass emails. And you can see here any that you've already sent or any that you have in draft will show up here first. If it's already been sent, you could view the report and this will show you the statistics for the open rates, the click rates, the unsubscribes, and the bounces. Or if it's currently in draft, you can jump back in and continue setting up that newsletter. So let's go ahead and create a new campaign. Now, first it's going to have us give the campaign a name, and this can be anything that will help you know which campaign it was when you're looking at the reporting. This is not the subject line that the contact's going to see. So in this case, I'm just going to say test 2. Now, 99% of the time, we're going to be sending standard, which is a regular one-time email campaign. If you choose automated, it's going to eventually take you over to the automations section of the CRM. And so if you know you're already going to go down that path, you may as well just start there. Autoresponder is going to be used if you have a sign-up form on your website and you want to have it automatically respond to their submission and thank them for signing up. Split testing will be useful if you want to test out different versions of a subject line, different versions of the email content, or different versions of who the email appears to be coming from, and we'll cover that in a different video. RSS triggered is based on having a link in place with your website and your blog so that if you, let's say, post new content on your website, it will automatically trigger an email being sent out to the contacts with that content. And then date-based would be used for anything that happens on an annual basis, like birthdays, work anniversaries, things like that, and we'll cover that in a later video as well. So, as I mentioned, 99% of the time we're going to be using standard as our campaign type, so let's just leave it at that and click on next. So now it wants us to choose a list that we're going to send this newsletter or this campaign to. Now, it may be tempting to just check this box up here at the top that selects all the lists, but here's a reason why you may not want to do that. If you select all the lists, and let's say you have an agent who's worked with you on both the buyer side, the listing side, and is in the newsletter list as well, if they unsubscribe from this email, it's going to unsubscribe them from all lists that they exist on. So in the future, if you have an automation set up to send out emails to people on the buyer's agents or listing agents list, they would not receive those emails because they unsubscribed and you had all lists selected. Whereas let's say we only chose the newsletter list. Even if they exist on additional lists, when you only choose one to send this campaign to and they unsubscribe from that email, it's only going to unsubscribe them from that specific list. So they would still receive communications that you would send to buyer's agents or listing agents. So my recommendation is either pick one that's already existing or create a new list. You may want to separate it out and have a list for monthly specials, a list for new product or service announcements, and then a list for, let's just call it motivation for the other stuff that you're going to send them. And then select the appropriate list for who you want to send this campaign to. Now in this case, let's say I want to send this campaign to buyer's agents. Where the CRM gets even cooler is your ability to then filter down this campaign further. So you can create a segment of this buyer's agents list, which is essentially saying that you're taking a large group, which in this case, this is a demo account with filler data, so we don't have a ton of contacts showing, but let's say you have 5,000 buyer's agents. Creating a segment is a way of telling the system, let's start with this large group and then filter it down to these specific contacts that I want to send this email to. So if we click on create a new segment, it's going to have us give it a name. So let's say, for example, we wanted to call this active, let's say active buyer's agents. And then we need to add a condition. Now selecting this first box here is going to show us all the options that we have to select for conditions. A majority of what we're going to be using will most likely live here in the custom fields because this is the stuff that we're pulling in from your scheduling system and keeping track of as far as inspection count and inspection date. So let's say in our case, we wanted to create this segment of active buyer's agents. We want this to be based off of their last inspection with us on the buy side. So I'm going to choose the most recent inspection as BA as the field that we're looking at. Now, this is where date-based stuff may sound a little bit confusing, so let me just go ahead and choose it, and this should help provide some clarity. So the way I've written this out is most recent inspection is on or after current date minus 90. So take today, subtract 90 days, so 3 months ago. If their most recent inspection was on or after 3 months ago, which is essentially from that period of time up until today, I am considering that an active agent. And so in this case, when I click done, now it took our list of buyer's agents, which once again, let's pretend there's 5,000, but let's say only 200 of them have worked with us within the last 3 months. This segment is going to help us narrow down this main list to make sure that this campaign is going only to the specific agents that we feel should receive it. So that's how we're going to create a segment to get even more specific with this list. And then we can go ahead and click on next. So now it's going to take us to a page where we can choose a template. And the CRM comes with a number of templates pre-programmed in. You can see we have 16 pages. Now, most of these are going to be more generic. They're going to need your logo. They'll need your links. They'll need any images or content that's specific to your company. So you're going to have to do some customization here with these. But let's say you find a template that you want to use. You would click on Use this template. Now here for the sender details, this is what the recipient's going to see when they get this email, as far as who the email appears to be coming from, the email address that it appears to be coming from, and this is the actual subject that your recipient's going to see. So you'll have to decide, and this can be part of looking at setting up a split test campaign in the future. Do you want it to appear to come just from your company? Do you want it to come from a specific person in your company to try and personalize it more? Or if you want to make sure it's branded to the company, do you want it to potentially come from both? So then you can type in something like this. So it identifies the person and then the company that it's coming from. For the email subject line, you can make this whatever you want. Just make sure that you keep character count in mind. Remember, email subjects, when you get that email in your inbox, it's going to be limited on how much displays, so don't make it super long. And then also be mindful of things that could potentially trigger spam filters. So if you have something like free, right, that could potentially trigger a spam filter. If you have a bunch of weird characters, that could potentially trigger a spam filter. So just be mindful of those things. One really cool feature, though, is you can add personalization to the email subject. So if I choose first name and I click on save, this is the recipient's first name that's going to show here. So it's going to say hello, and if I'm sending this to myself, it would say hello, Austin. So it makes it seem really personal, and that way it hopefully ups the engagement of people opening that email. So let's go ahead and click on continue. Okay, so you can see here we have our template that we chose, and now we need to go ahead and swap out some information. So it says logo here. If I click on that, you can see it's already taking us to an image block. And by choosing this button up here that says new image, that will give us the ability to add a new image. And then from there, we can mess around with it to make sure that it looks the way that we want it to in this newsletter. You can click in here, you can customize any of this text, not only changing the text itself, but also changing the font, the size, the color, if it's bold, italicized, or underlined, its alignment. You can link directly, insert an image into text, and then personalize. So once again, let's say that you want to add their name here. You could click on this personalize button, and you can see all the different fields that you could insert values for if those values exist. Choose first name. So now the email, when they open it, is going to say, treat yourself, Austin, which once again just adds a little bit more personalization to it. You can also customize down here any of the buttons. So over here on the right-hand side is where you would insert the link that that button is going to link to. And you can see there are tons of options to make sure that this button and anything in the email match the branding of your company and look exactly the way that you want them to look. A couple of other cool features as well is, let's say, for example, your logo here at the top looks awesome when somebody opens this email on their desktop, but it doesn't look so great when they open it on their phone because it takes up way too much space and hides the content that you want them to see immediately. By clicking on this gear icon over here, you have this option to hide on mobile devices, which means this logo will now only show when they open this email on their desktop or on a laptop, but not on a mobile device. So over here on the right hand side, once again, you can see these are all the different blocks that you can add to this email. So if you wanted to, let's say, add some social links, which I know we already have some there, but we can click and we can drag, and you can see there's a little line that says insert here. And then here it's going to take us to a page where we add all of our social links, turn off the ones that we don't have. We would click on save, and then here it's going to drop that in. And then we can just change the alignment as well as change any spacing or padding. So you have full customization over the email design process and how you want it to look, where you want things to link, and make sure that it's really crafted in a way that's going to match your company brand and your company voice. So let's say in this instance, we're happy with the email the way it looks now. This is the campaign that we want to send out. We would go ahead and click on next. Okay, so now it's taking us to the campaign summary page, which is just going to give us an overview of the information about this campaign. So you can see we have our subject here that we chose, which we can edit that. We have a section for pre-header text. Now, pre-header text are the lines of text underneath the subject line that you see when an email comes into your inbox, but before you actually open that email. Usually pre-header text will fill in with the email content itself, but you do have the ability to customize it. So if you want to specify which text should show there, you may want to do that to help encourage them to open that email and read more about it versus it just filling in with the first lines from the email. You can see this is where we have who the email is coming from. Now you can see also, and I mentioned that I have some filler data in this demo account. So we don't have any active buyer's agents. 0 contacts is who this would be sent to, which means we're not going to be able to actually send it. So then I would need to go back and either change the segment or remove the segment altogether and just send it to everyone on the buyer's agent list. Here it's going to show your company address. This is a requirement for email marketing that this is included in your emails. Open and read tracking and link tracking by default are going to be turned on, which we want to leave these on because that's how we're going to run reports and see what % of them have opened it and what % have clicked on a link, and then dive even deeper to find out which links did they click on and who clicked on each individual link. Reply tracking by default is off. Now, it may sound nice to be able to pull a report and find out how many people replied to this email. The downside is that in order for the system to measure that, the response has to go through a proxy server before it comes to you. And that proxy server is going to be a super long random combination of letters and numbers, not your actual email address. So the downside is if somebody goes to reply to that email, it's not going to appear as though they're replying to you. It's going to look like they're replying to a system, and that may reduce the amount of replies that you get. So in my opinion, you're going to know if somebody replies to you, and you'll probably continue that conversation with them there. So I don't really see a need to turn this on and pull a report on that and risk people not replying as much as they would have. Google Analytics by default is turned off as well. That's something that we can explore if you want to tie this into larger tracking campaigns. And then Campaign Archive by default is public. You can go and switch it over to private if you want to make sure it stays private. Here we can schedule our campaign. So right now with this turned off, you can see the button up here says send now. But if we want to schedule this out in the future, let's say we want to do next week and we can choose the time, we can go and flip this over to on, and you can see send now changed to finish. So this is now going to be scheduled for the 24th, and we can come in at any point in time between now and then and make any changes to this campaign before it actually sends. My recommendation is, even if you're ready to send this now, still schedule it out at least 30 minutes to an hour in the future, because as soon as you hit send now, you may have a few seconds to try and stop it from going out, but you're most likely not going to be able to catch it that quickly. And so if you realize 5 minutes later that you forgot to include a link or you forgot to update an image, it's going to be too late to change that. Whereas if you give yourself 30 minutes to an hour, that may be just enough for you to remember that you had to fix something in that campaign. You can also send yourself a test email. That way you can open it up on your computer, on your phone, see how it's going to look. You also have options down here for email client preview and desktop preview. Now, if I do desktop preview, this one's going to be pretty straightforward, just giving us a preview of what this email is going to look like. Email client preview is considered an enhanced feature of the CRM, so I believe each account includes 5 email previews. And then if you want more, we would have to purchase additional credits, which that's something we can certainly talk about. We would just add that onto your monthly amount depending on how many credits you're purchasing. The benefit of the email client preview, and you can see because I'm in a sandbox account here, I'm not going to be able to do this, is it actually runs this email through different email providers. So it'll send it to a dummy Gmail account, Outlook, Yahoo, AOL, and Apple Mail. So that way you can see how this email looks in all those different types of email clients. And that may be useful if you're designing an email that's pretty complex or very intricate, just to make sure it's going to display properly on all devices. Most times, though, when I send an email to myself as a test and I open it up, that's generally what everyone else is going to see when I've done these email client previews. And the last thing here you can see is spam check. And so in this case, we have passed the spam check. If there were any issues such as language in the email that could trigger spam filters, or any characters or anything else that could possibly filter this email to spam, it would show that here so you can go in and make adjustments. So let's go ahead and schedule this, and let's say finish. So now it's going to take us back to our overview of the campaigns page, and you can see here we have test 2 scheduled. And so if we wanted to jump back in and make any changes, we could just click on this edit button. Otherwise, it's going to be sent in 6 days on the 24th at 7:48 in the morning. So that's the process that you're going to follow a majority of the time when you're sending out mass emails. And in future videos, we'll explore some of the additional features like the split testing or like the date-based campaigns.